Okay, this is a little update on landlord's bullying tactics. The only thing saving him is his LLC, which is contrary to the public interest, thus established under the color of law, which legally makes it null and void. All laws are required to be in the public interest and the needs of the many, not the greeds of the few. I had this conversation of one of the previous landlords and counsel when threatened with eviction. I mentioned bringing copies of the rules of professional conduct, the code of judicial conduct, and review them with the court in court so everything goes by the book, and have you cited for legal harassment, violating the oath, deprivation of rights, failure to act in the public interest, as well as you well know, frivolous and fraudulent claims are inadmissible in any court of law, and you will be disbarred if the judge fails to cite you. It goes from deprivation of rights to a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. These penalties and fines, there are penalties and fines for all, which are removed from public service, fines, removed from public service, and incarceration. Need we speak about ethics violations? That's how I stopped the wrongful conviction. Never to enter a courtroom without knowing the rules. Well, the rules of professional conduct and the code of judicial conduct are you always be living under the color of law. I've spoken to you before, and I mention every damn time, your rights, no matter what they are not a given. They are earned. So you have to know before you go in there. And the only way anybody will play by the book is if you bring the book. And you're going to have to bring the damn law library with you like I do. Okay, so I had this conversation. I forgot who was with. But this building has changed hands. And it's only a suspicion of mine because they refused to pay the expense of repairing the building. They sold it. At least that's what the last landlady said. Crazy lady. And she said all she has to do is just sell the building and her LLC will protect her. And yeah, it's protect her from being sued into oblivion. LLCs are in the interest of the bar. Those with the most money, pay their politicians to see things their way, which is violating the oath they took. All lawyers take the oath to abide by, the Sixth Amendment of the U.S. Constitution guarantees you effective assistance and counsel, and that's described in the rules and the codes. And for any lawyer to violate one rule, it's impossible just to violate one rule, multiple rules, and that's not including the preamble in its entirety. So those are a lot of laws that they break, and then nobody reporting them. That's misconduct, and it's mandatory to report misconduct in the rules of professional conduct and the code of judicial conduct, and that's why you are where you are. But I'm more than sure, after I yelled at this guy and spoke to him, I told him, go speak to your lawyer, and I told him exactly what I would do. And he threatened me with evicting me. But today I got a text message that somebody will be out here to repair the bathroom Friday morning at 9 a.m. Today is Monday? So in a couple days. So I'm quite sure he spoke with counsel. Until I can get out of here, I'm putting in all these applications for senior affordable housing, specifically, being on, Social Security. I've been disabled for a long time, and this guy was literally complaining about, I want special treatment. I expect special treatment because I'm handicapped. I never asked for it. I never used it as living in a wheelchair as a crutch. I never did. When I get out there in my wheelchair, I can go, and I do. It's just that some time back, things started going downhill. My health was failing, and I'm guessing because I had to go see a doctor, and he suggested it was the long-term effects of black mold, and I spoke to this guy about. So when the guy comes out here, I'm gonna ask him about if he knows, if he can tell me if there's no black mold behind that drywall. I don't know the particulars about inspection and all that, but I still have to spray and clean some on the shower wall and in the bathtub around the drain. And, but there's things that, and so they still haven't fixed the plumbing. And they are legally required, by law to make sure that, that the water services here are, live up to par, which they don't. So anytime, with all the landlords, every time I mention something about repairs, this guy has no choice. He just bought the building. He's just a couple months in. But I'm quite sure he spoke to counsel because I was adamant about the rules and the codes and going to court and making sure that I go over all of it. I'm going to go there and highlight everything. Highlight everything before I go. Print it out, highlight everything I want to say before I go. And in the Code of Judicial Conduct, it requires that the judge let me have my say. And that's the first thing I'm going to mention to the judge. The requirements of the Code of Judicial Conduct. And see to it that the only reason they want to evict me is because they don't want to make the repairs. So this guy, he's stuck now. I tried to make arrangements with the other landlords. When somebody moves out, I guess something happened. But this guy's been spending a lot of time repairing the apartment next door to me. They did that with another apartment with the other landlord. I said, well, I could just, when you get done, make sure it's up to par and this and that, and I'll move from this apartment to that apartment, and then you could fix all this stuff and rent this apartment. Oh, we're not going to go through all that. Why don't you just move? I have no choice. SSDI, isn't a lot. I worked so hard. I became disabled. 6 surgeries. I need more. Doctors are holding me up. I've been fighting everybody every which way. But nobody wants me to take me to court because, and then when I file stuff for court, they started ignoring me in the 90s because I would bring up deprivation of rights, a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. The rules, the codes, the mandatories behind the oath, the oath of all public officials. But he was really upset. And he knows I have him on camera. I recorded him. He's been here several times, but this was the first time I recorded him. So people, make sure you record exactly what's going on. Let them notify you. It's ridiculous. I talked to this guy before. He'd been here before, and he totally acted like he didn't know what the hell I was talking about. I have one short recording with him and some guy coming, and they just keyed their way in unannounced, and I was sitting in my chair. But I didn't have the TV on, nothing. I was just sitting in the dark thinking about things I wanted to talk to you people about. What should I say first? There's just so much to say. I've been thinking about so much for so long. I don't know where to start, and it'll never end. But either way, if you know the laws I'm talking about, it's easy to look them up, and I post my other videos. LLCs, limited liabilities, which is contrary to the public interest. All laws must be created in the public interest. Okay, I did a video on that, going over the public interest. thus established under the color of law. Since they made them in favor, creating this LLC limited liability means you can't sue these evildoers into oblivion, to where they can't exist anymore. They can just continue to go and move on and do it to somebody else. A recidivism of, and it's ridiculous. So LLCs legally, and ask yourself, as the public, is that in your best interest? Okay. Thus established under the color of law, it makes it null and void. If you're familiar with that, Google under the color of law, that means they made laws which are contrary to your constitutional rights, to the letter, to the rule of law. There's a lot of laws that are contrary to the rule of law. When it comes to justice, there's not equal justice, and I think statistics would prove that. So bringing the rules of professional conduct and code of judicial conduct and review them with the court. That's in my opinion, essential. Don't just bring them with you. Read them, study them. It's not that hard. I found them in 1979, and I've been throwing them around like I was Muhammad Ali. I did. People used to laugh at me when I was in therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder. They didn't understand that it wasn't just a beat down, the near-death experience. I was beaten and left for dead for going to court trying to assert my constitutional rights, as well as that being their constitutional duties. This is, defying the oath. This is deprivation of rights. Nobody's playing by the rules. Nobody's playing by the codes. I'm not allowed witnesses. The judge gets to pick all the witnesses. The judge gets to pick all the evidence. So it came down to where no evidence was allowed, no witnesses, and the only witnesses they were hostile. Easily proven, but that wasn't brought up. There was a lot of things that were withheld. There was exculpatory evidence within the hospital reports, the police reports, and nobody would use it or have anybody testify to what was in it, and nobody would give it to me. It took me a while to get there, but I got there. Courts wouldn't allow it. Clerk's office, a couple of times they told me it was on sealed. It was sealed. The record was sealed. And but they didn't know I already had the record. I was just I put things in writing, never get an answer from the Attorney Registration Disciplinary Commission, the Judicial Inquiry Board, now known as the Illinois Attorney Registration Disciplinary Commission in Illinois Judicial Inquiry Board. I filed in federal court, writs of habeas corpus. Oh my God. I filed with the ARDC. I filed for civil rights violations, never got an answer. And when I finally got an answer is when I went personally to the FBI. I had to go there personally, and I was surprised I got an answer. I got an answer from the ARDC, rather arrogant, and they said they spoke to the state's attorney's office, and the state's attorney called me a liar, so thus it was over. But I gave everything to the FBI. I talked to them, and they found everything I said incredible, and everything that state's attorney's office said incredible. All right. But I'm not there to preach to you.
Wait. What?
But I do know, I helped people before, years ago, with wrongful evictions. There's wrongful convictions, wrongful evictions. you name it. If you don't know the rules and the codes, you will know how wrong it is. Use the law. I just wanted to give you an update. When they come here Friday, you can be sure I'm going to record. And, I mean, it's a long time. I mean, it's going to be a while before this guy sells this building. And I did contact some government agencies, and they said, file a report. There's laws against this, and file a report. Took an oath to do, and I give you job descriptions right here on the internet, and you're not doing it unless I file a report. Hey, people, do you know what the violations of the rule of law, the penalties for violating the rule of law? Look that up. I did a video on that. Penalties for violating the rule of law. Actually, I think it's over here. That's landlord. Oh, see? I like to teach people the law. Actually, I can't teach them. They have to read it. I just coax people into reading. Penalties for violating the rule of law vary depending on the severity of the offense and the specific law broken, ranging from minor fines and community service for infractions to imprisonment, significant fines, and permanent loss of rights for more serious civil or criminal offenses. Okay, but see, that's on the net. That's what I put. Penalties for violating the rule of law. That's all. I put it in my search engine, and it's right there on the net. And I copied and pasted. That's all. Rule of law is in danger, Chief Justice said. If they, just charge everybody according to the law, lock them up, show some accountability for those that break the rule of law. That's all I'm saying. Some people say I talk too much, but I got a lot to talk about when it comes to your birthrights. When it comes to the people, all I see is we the people. When it comes to my fellow citizens, when I took a pledge of allegiance, I didn't pledge allegiance just to the flag. I pledged allegiance to we the people, not a government, not a politician, not a political party, and definitely not Wall Street that owns and operates our political system. We are living in a corporacy. I did a video about that too, corporacy. It's a government established to, make rules in favor of, corporations, laws, political system, all based in corporate favor. Corporacy. Or cooperacy. Just as it sounds, C-O-R, corporate, C-O-R. Just put corporate, C. I'm sorry, I'm a little tired. But I just wanted to give you an update on my landlord crisis. So, Friday at 9 a.m., I should have a visit from the repair guy. All right, thanks for listening. Sometimes when you know, you know. Some people say I'm smart. Well, if you read the same stuff I did, you would be just as smart. If that's what you call smart. I call it reading a lot, I just find law fascinating. Actually, the part where not all laws matter. Where not all are being enforced, yet alone suffering the consequences of violating the oath. Let's start there. violating the rule of law, penalties for violating the rule of law, penalties for violating the letter of the law. That's all I'm talking. I mean, if you look it up, you'll see for yourself. You want accountability. That's what I've been reaching for. To me, when it comes to knowledge, the sky's the limit, but I reach for the stars. And if I can do it, you too. You can too. I mean, it's all up to you, what you want to know, all right? Stop at legal reform, get that legal knowledge to make a reasonable decision, so that way you can give informed consent. And if you had that legal knowledge, no way would you give consent to them depriving you of your rights. It's deprivation of rights. When I originally started writing about this, it was a deprivation, conspiracy of deprivation of rights under the color of law. But they eventually, but see, I didn't know about it. It was just a lot of things I read and that I put together. And then when I finally got out of prison and started getting more and more into books, and I was like, everybody's doing it. So I started, taking these little trips and checking out other cities, other states, and it's everywhere. It's quite common. Quite common. Deprivation of rights under the color of law. And considering the fact that nobody's stopping anybody, nobody's facing the penalties, it's a conspiracy against rights under the color of law, my friends. No matter which way you turn, no matter where you look, there's always a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. Listen, people, that's just a legal term, all right? It's not, I didn't write that. Look up a conspiracy against rights under the color of law. And then you understand why I say everybody knows that. Just that nobody's locking nobody up for that. That is a whole lot of... I've seen people get locked up for protesting against their civil rights violations. They're literally out there protesting a deprivation of rights, which is illegal. You can't deprive if you make a law to take one person's rights, you're taking away everybody else's. Hell no to that. Hell no to that. People are finally starting to realize. I've been saying that since I was 18. There it is, 50 years later. People are crying about it. I see it. And I'm not hating on them. And I ain't mad because of who they voted for. If I could sit down and talk to them and just listen, you want what they took back, use the law. First, start holding them to the oath they took. And then look at that video that I did in the public interest. It's a mandatory for all public servants. People have those eco-nuts. Imagine if they looked up the public trust doctrine. There's a whole lot of laws there being broken. Those eco-nuts say they could use the law. Hey, dude, you broke the law, and if you didn't break the law, we wouldn't be out here protesting. You would have just did your job years ago. Now, and look up violations, punishments for... Whoa, see, now you got the internet to teach you. That's Johnny on the spot right there. Johnny on the spot. Look up, I was watching the videos, confrontations and cops getting really out of hand, and really needing an attitude adjustment, some, what's that called? Anger management, and I mean, it's people are fine. It's always been like that. When they pull up, you're supposed to, ask how high before you jump. How high? How high? Wait till they tell you. When they come up to the car and ask you to get out of the car, and then they get mad because you don't, they'll drag you up. But if they pull up and you get out of the car, they start yelling at you to get back in the car. It's always contradictory. It's happened to me numerous times. It's always contradictory. So now that any law they state, just go over on the internet. Number one, violating the oath, the penalties for that. Okay, because they are public servants. All public take the oath of public service, look that up, and then there is the oath of office or whatever agency they work for. And they say, well, I didn't take, no, but that's required of everybody in that office. So, but still, okay, I just wanted to let you know that Friday they're going to start repairs on the bathroom. And as the landlord said, they're going to slap some paint on. But they think I'm going to be here the whole step of the way. I'm handicapped. I got nowhere to go. I get out once a week when the healthcare lady comes and takes me grocery shopping or to the laundromat. But yeah, I'm going to be, Ray knows I'm going to be here. And I know the other landlord told him that I was the problem tenant. Wants me to fix things, spend money. First time I complained to this guy, he said, I'm not here to remodel. I said, I didn't ask you to remodel. And it's true. Before, the last landlady said, well, we don't have to make repairs, and you got to take that up with the next owner according to the law. Ha ha ha, which is true. But see, that's what the landlord before her said. So she was actually breaking the agreement she was telling me that he had to fulfill. And they're very contradictory. And they keep talking to me. Before I ever say anything, they just start talking to me like I don't even speak English. I don't understand. People really got to get over that. That's not insulting my intelligence. They're insulting their own. But the text message between me and this guy here, quite cordial. I was polite. I didn't call him a buffoon, a moron, an idiot in my text. I didn't call him a dick. In my text, I was quite polite. But I'm quite sure when he spoke to council, there's consequences and repercussions when these public servants finally do get around to all these building code violations. Seriously, that black mold is a health hazard. The doctor was telling me. I looked it up on the internet. So I'm still fighting with that, but it's nowhere near as bad as it was before. And it took them forever to fix the faucets in the bathroom. They were constantly running. Hot water. It was always humid in there. I had to have a fan running, constantly blowing into the bathroom, and the exhaust fan in the bathroom, and then water leaked, and it came down through the vent for the exhaust fan, and sparks, and shit going out. But some people say just move it. I'm old. I got nobody. This young man that lived next door told me to call him and he'll help me move, or he'll get some people and they'll move me. And very nice young man. Very nice young man. He moved. He told me I need to get out of here. The way these people are, they treat everybody horribly. you get on their bad side, your car is getting towed. But anyway, sorry for taking up that much of your time, but I just wanted to let you know the update is repairs start Friday. All right, thanks for listening. God bless.